It's time. I'm finally reading Fourth Wing and Iron Flame right in time for the third book releasing on January 21st. I plan to release this video on or around Onyx Storm's release date of the 21st. Currently it's like the 4th. And this vlog is going to be all spoilers for both of these books. Hi, this is Editing Daphne jumping in. This video ended up being very long, so I'm just going to make this one Fourth Wing only, and then I'm going to have a second video that's exclusively Iron Flame spoiler content. So, just letting you know, back to the video. If you've stumbled across this video and you haven't met me before, hello, I am Daphne. Welcome to this video. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for coming back if you're not and hanging out with me. But let's get started with this vlog. I am on a time crunch to read these books. I don't have that much time and they're pretty thick. Fourth Wing, here we go. Hi, I have reading updates for Fourth Wing. I'm on page 136 and I can't lie, I'm having a pretty good time with it. My expectations were low because I haven't been having the best time with fantasy romance in the last year, but this has been fun, and I've also decided I'm not gonna be too critical. I'm just gonna go for the vibes, okay? There are gonna be plot holes and like logical things that don't make sense, but we're just gonna overlook them and keep on trucking. So I'm having fun with it for sure. I've taken some notes, that way I make sure to hit the major plot points, updating you guys, considering this is a spoiler vlog. Okay, so first thing you need to know is our main character is Violet. She is the daughter of the general of the school, who like runs the school. There's been a rebellion in this country. It probably ended about 5-ish years ago. That will become important to know. Since Violet's mother like runs this war college, she's been living at the school pretty much her whole life, but you don't actually attend the war college until you're 20. There are 3 classes, so like first through third year, and Violet's going into her first year. She's been studying to be a scribe. So there's 4 types of tracks in this college. There's scribe, which is like a historian. There are healers, there is the infantry quadrant, which I guess are just like foot soldiers, and then there's the riders quadrant, which are the soldiers that get bonded to dragons, which is obviously very special. Violet's mother, the general, she has a dragon. Violet's older brother was a soldier with a dragon. Her older sister, Mira, is a soldier with a dragon. But she had another track in mind, but her mom's like, actually, I changed my mind. I'm gonna force you to be a rider. But the rider quadrant is very deadly. Like, people die all the time. And everybody's okay with that because apparently dragons won't bond with humans that are weak. It's a bit of a logistical, like logical gap in the story, but we power through, okay? It's just the vibe of the story to make it more deadly and stuff. It's her first day. She's like trying to do the bridge thing. She has to like climb up the tower of the school on the one half and then cross this like narrow stone bridge with like no railings. Everybody has to do it in order to get to the rider's quadrant to like prove you have enough balance and like skill and bravery and all this stuff. And we meet some important characters on this first day. So she's already been kind of pre-prepped. Her sister Mira gave her like some extra leathers and armor and better boots for gripping and stuff. So she's as prepared as she can be, considering Violet's at a disadvantage compared to everybody else because one, she hasn't been studying to be a rider. She's not that strong. She's small in stature. She's very brittle. She spends a lot of time in the infirmary, just like in general, like her whole life. What she lacks in physical prowess, she makes up for in determination and cleverness and all this stuff, which is fun to read about. But anyway, the characters that we meet are Rhiannon, which is a black female character, which is fun. She becomes like her bestie. And then we meet Xaden that day. Xaden is our love interest. He's a third year. He's the child of a rebel, right? That whole rebel thing I was trying to tell you about earlier. I don't know all the politics of this rebellion. It's not that specified, but the rebels of this country got defeated, got stopped. They were put to execution, and the children of those rebels were forced to watch, and then they were marked. So they have these like weird like tattoo kind of scars. I think it was implemented from a dragon's magic or something. I'm not really sure, but it makes them stand out. And then they were all forced to go to this rider quadrant because it's very deadly. The people that sent them there, obviously angry at the rebels, figured they would just die because the death rate is pretty high at this school. But some of them are doing well, and Xaden is one of them. He's a third year, and he's risen to the rank of wing leader, which basically is the highest rank you can be as a student. There are categories of like organization in the chain of command at the school. So it's like squad, which is the smallest, and then there are a couple squads within the section, and there are a few sections within the wing. And there are 4 wings, and Xaden runs the 4th wing. Say the name of the title, baby, say the name of the title. So he wants to get revenge on Violet's mother because she was related to punishing the rebels. So a lot of the rebel kids want Violet dead. And the first time he sees her, he's like, I'm gonna kill you. And she's like, oh shit. Because her sister already warned her about him. Her friend that's a second year in the rider quadrant also is like, stay away from him, you need to get out of here. That's Dane. Love Dane, he's like boys next door, but also, you know, they have a bit of a history, like they're friends, but like it seems like Violet's been in love with him for a while, but they never did anything about it. And it sets up this kind of like love triangle opportunity, but you know it's not gonna be Dane. Also, it's like you snooze, you lose, dude. Like you had all the opportunity in the world. Violet seemed DTF for a while, like the fuck. You missed out. And then we also meet this guy, Jack. I don't know if he's a rebel. I don't think he is. But for whatever reason, he has it out for Violet. I think he just sees her as small and weak, maybe, and he wants to kill her. He sees her on the first day and he's like, yo, I'm coming for you. And he's like right behind her, crossing that dangerous stone bridge, that first challenge. He's like chasing her. He wants to like push her off. He like pushed some other kid off the thing to their death. But Violet thankfully manages to make it across okay, and he's like right there on her heels, and she like pulls out her dagger and like holds it up against his balls and is like, stay the F away from me. And he's like, you got away with it this time, but I'm coming for you, like that kind of energy. So scared of him, honestly more scared of him than Xaden. Jack is unhinged. He's a psychopath because they were doing like combat exercises, and the professor's like, hey, don't kill each other, we're just doing evaluations. And Jack's like, haha, I'm gonna do what I want, and he like snaps his opponent's neck and kills him. Like, excuse me, sir, what is wrong with you? He's crazy. But yeah, students are like expected kind of to kill each other, except for the people in their squad. Like, you're not allowed to kill your squad mates. It's kind of encouraged for them to kill each other. There's like 300 plus students trying to be riders, and we lost maybe like 15% on the first day, 20% of them to the bridge, and more of them will die throughout the months leading up to the bonding ceremony with the dragons. So we're expecting maybe like 170 students to make it that far. There's gonna be like more challenges and stuff to survive, but there are only 100 dragons willing to bond. So there are students from the previous class that were first years that made it all the way to the end but didn't get picked by a dragon, and they never got matched up. So they're going through first year again. So there's definitely more humans than dragons. But to be honest, I'm like, 100 dragons is a lot of dragons. Like, how many dragons are in this world? Why are there so many dragons? For me, I feel like dragons should be rare. There have to be hundreds and hundreds of dragons, and they live for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I have no idea. I think it was briefly mentioned in one of the history classes that Violet was going to later into the story, where they were like, oh, this dragon is 400 years old. He's like only halfway through his lifespan. I'm like, how many dragons are there, and they live that long? Very curious about this world. I mentioned her friend Dane, right? He really wants her to leave the rider quadrant. That's not really a thing to like leave, but she knows she's not gonna get away with leaving anyway. Her mother would just force her back. Like, her mother would literally rather see Violet die than not be a rider. So she's given it her best, and Violet is being very clever. She ends up getting the notebook of her brother through her sister, right? Because he's much older, and he had written a journal giving her sister Mira tips when she was going through it all. So Mira hands it down to Violet. You know, it gives her some tips on like how to snoop on the professors to get like intel, for who she's matching up with in the combat challenges and things like that. So she can like sneakily poison the opponent beforehand so that they're sick and weak when she has to fight them so that she can win. Things like that. She's very clever. Xaden's like butthurt that Vi's mother killed his parents, but it's also like kind of even because the rebels killed her brother. And this is like gang wars. Like, this is why gang wars happen. You know what I mean? It's always like, you killed this person, I'm gonna get revenge. Oh, you killed them for revenge, I'm gonna get revenge again. And then it's just like always this like back and forth. I also learned that Xaden is a shadow daddy. His bond with his dragon gives him the power to like control the shadows, to be able to see people in the shadows, to like physically like grab things with the shadows. They had like this moment one night because Violet was snooping around at night looking for her poisons. She was climbing up in this tree, and Xaden shows up under the tree and meets like all of the rebel children at one time, and that's like against the law. Like, there shouldn't be more than 3 of them gathered together at once. So Violet's like, what are they doing? Are they plotting something? But it turns out like he's just giving them tips. He's like checking in on them. He's like, guys, are you good? Like, you need to survive. If you don't have what it takes, like, I'm sorry for you, you're just gonna die. Like, what do you need to be better at your combat so you can make it? You know what I mean? Like, he's actually being kind of nice. And he knows she's there, so when everybody leaves, he confronts her, and they have like this like moment. And she's like, if you're just gonna kill me, kill me. And he's like, I'm not gonna kill you, but I'm much stronger than you, and it's obvious. So things like that. And in that scene also, you do get confirmed that Xaden is at least partially black, okay? He's black. I know there's been all this talk on TikTok, like, oh, is Xaden black or not? And like all the fan art, a lot of it like whitewashes him. He looks kind of like olive toned, like whatever kind of man. But the way Rebecca described him initially, like the first time you see him, I wasn't that sure, because she's like, oh, he's got tawny skin, which is like brown skin, right? But then she described his hair as like windswept. And I'm like, I don't really know like what that means, but I'm gonna picture like how I've seen the fan art. I'm like, okay, maybe he's not black. But at this scene, when Violet is snooping on that group while she's up in the tree, she says, oh, there's this guy that looks just like Xaden, and she describes him as being dark-skinned and with an afro, basically. The kid had kinky, curly puff of hair, and she's like, they look like they could be cousins. And I was like, wait a second, you're telling me Xaden looks like this clearly African guy, like this black man? And then that same character is like speaking to Xaden, and he calls Xaden cousin. So they are cousins, and I was like, wait a second. So that was, how far into the book was that? That was maybe like almost 100 pages in. Sorry with all the construction noise. Yeah, I had to really like reframe my image of him in my mind. Why are they making all this fucking construction noise? I'm just gonna have to power through, okay? I'll speak louder over the fucking noise. I ended up looking up new, fresh fan art, specifically looking for like black versions of Xaden, and I'm imagining him with like, you know, looking like a proper black man with like fuller lips, a broader nose, but maybe like softer hair, maybe not like super like 4 level hair, maybe like a 3C level hair if you know anything about hair textures. But I also, honestly, as a black woman, I feel less threatened by Xaden as a black man, especially because Violet is a white woman in the story. Like, she's definitely white, right? Because like, I'm American too, okay? Obviously. Racism and like the history of racism is like a very big thing here in America. And obviously this is like a fantasy world, and there's prejudice against the rebel children in this school 100%. And they don't talk about prejudice against color of skin at all. And there's good diversity in the story, like so many different descriptions of skin tone and hair textures and like all this stuff. So I really enjoy that. It does make me feel kind of like a type of way from my, you know, true reality of living as a person in America, because he's like threatened her to like kill her or whatever. But I'm just like thinking in the back of my mind, like, this black man is not gonna attack a white woman because he will be immediately murdered. Like, the powers that be would demonize, I don't know, like, I mean, he murdered someone, but like, it's a school where you murder people all the time. But like, I'm just thinking like historically of like black men that were accused of doing things against white women. Like, black men are not gonna risk it with white women, I feel like, personally, you know? Like, it's a very sensitive area. So honestly, reimagining him truly black, I feel less scared for Violet, because I'm like, he can't afford to hurt you. You know? Like, if he wants to live, I don't know. And I know that's not how the fantasy world is set up. So like you're supposed to still be actually scared, but also like he's the love interest, so you know she's gonna be fine either way. But yeah, I definitely just feel kind of like sensitive. I've described it as best I can. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. That's like the big things that you need to know. Violet's doing all right. It's been like 2 months so far in how far I've gotten through. She's up to the point where it's like presentation day, where all the surviving first years are going to stand in front of the dragons that are willing to bond and let them look them over. And then the following day, I believe, they have to try to approach the dragons to bond with them. And they could lose their lives doing that, right? But to get up to the flight field where the dragons will be, there's like this whole obstacle course. And it's completely a ripoff from Ninja Warrior. It's Ninja Warriors. It's like up this cliff side, and they're like, oh, you have to jump across this spinning log, and then like get across these bars, and then jump on the ball, and like hold the ball and swing across, and then you have to do, they were like, you have to do the wall. It looks like a chimney and you have to climb it. And the way she described the guy that did it the first time in practice, because they get to practice like 10 times the weeks leading up, he does like an X and he's like jumping up this way. And I'm like, that is Ninja Warrior. And then the last one is it's like, oh, it's like a sheer cliff and you have to like run and jump and grab it. I'm like, that's literally the last step in Ninja Warrior, and that's the last step in this challenge. I'm like, okay, this is a little silly. Okay, he's straight ripping off Ninja Warrior here at this deadly war college. But the thing is, it's like on a cliff face, so the kids could like fall to their death off the cliff. When they're practicing, there are like safety ropes and stuff that they could try to catch. I mean, they could still die during practice, but they could try to save themselves. And Violet's currently stuck on the chimney wall thing because she's very short and her span isn't big enough to reach. I'm thinking she just needs to go sideways, like do both hands this way and both feet the other way, but she hasn't figured that out yet. And Xaden's like, dude, the right way isn't the only way. They're not friends yet, but like he has these teaching moments with her when they're interacting. Oh, also another big thing that I wanna wrap up on this update is that Dane's power, so he's a second year, her friend that she's known forever, right? Who she's kind of had a crush on since she was a child. And maybe he did too, but I don't know. Who cares about him romantically? You snooze, you lose. He's bonded to a dragon. He's also their squad leader, so he has a little bit of power in the school. And his power is that he can read the recent memories of people if he touches their temples. Usually the kids get like a little patch that indicates what their power is with their dragon. Because there are common ones like fire, ice, da-da-da-da, but then there are special ones like controlling the weather and like knowing the outcomes of battles, things like that. So his is rare and it's top secret, but he tells Violet because they're besties. There are moments throughout the story where he's like described as like cradling her face, like trying to be sweet and shit. And I don't fucking trust it. I don't trust him at all. I'm like, Violet, don't let him touch your face. Like, I know he's your friend, but she also has like secrets with Xaden because that whole like meeting she witnessed, she didn't out them. Like, like the other kids don't know that she saw like their meeting, but Xaden knows that she saw. She decided she's not gonna tell anyone because he wasn't really doing anything wrong except like meeting beyond the 3 people, but like he's just trying to help the other students. So she decides to keep it a secret and not tell Dane because Dane would definitely report it and da-da-da and like start shit. I just like am nervous when he touches her because I'm like, he could be reading your thoughts, girl. I don't trust him. He's not the love interest. I think that is all the major spoiler updates that I have for this. That was kind of a lot, so I'll try to keep it shorter next time, but I feel like I needed to set the stage a little bit, so I think the other updates don't have to be like this intense. But I'm gonna continue with my day and read some more of this tonight, and I will talk to you later. Guys. I can't not give an update right now. I keep squealing like, oh my God. I wear this a lot because it's basically a robe, okay? It looks like a hoodie, but I'm changing my clothes underneath, I promise. I'm just putting this back on because it's cozy like a robe, okay? Anyway, I just got to chapter 15. I'm on page like 171, and I'm in the middle of some action, but like, I'm loving it. I'm the most shocked, okay? I'm truly shocked. I know literally everybody and their mother, my mother included, love this book. And I'm eating it up. I can't lie. And it's not even just like the romance. Like, I'm a romance girly. Usually the romance carries me through a plot. But like, I'm truly invested and captivated by Violet's story as an individual woman. Like, just her, a young woman trying to work to her best advantage and like survive this deadly competition slash situation slash everything. I'm like truly captivated. So I'm at the part. Oh well, first let me quickly update you. The thing with the wall, she climbed it with the rope. She like pulled the safety rope. Apparently they were still there over to the chimney wall thing, and then like held it with her hands, and then used her feet to like push herself up. And then they had like the Ninja Warrior like wall curved wall thing that was like 10 feet tall. She definitely couldn't make it, so she was able to like use her knife and like climb the rest of the way up. So she did that. They did the presentation, and then a couple days later they're doing the threshing where they have to like approach a dragon, right? And we already know there's this like small one. There's like this small golden feather tail one, which I was like, okay, that makes sense with all the merch and stuff that I've seen around Fourth Wing, because there's always like a big dragon and then like a little dragon that's gold. And the big dragon was like painted black, but I just figure it could have been Xaden's dragon. Okay, so I had some theories. Originally, I was like, oh, maybe she has two dragons. And then I was like, oh, maybe not. And then I was like, maybe the big dragon is Xaden's dragon, and she has the little dragon because she's tiny. But then she's like wandering around the forest or whatever, and the bullies of the class are trying to kill the little dragon because they're like, oh, it's weak, like we need to kill it. Mind you, that's not a thing. You don't kill the dragon. So she's like, I can't let that happen. So she like races ahead of them and tries to protect the little dragon. Oh my god, the camera's gonna die. Don't die. No. This is an interesting angle. Okay. I've plugged you in. Anyway, she goes to protect the little dragon, and the little dragon has no fire breathing as far as she can tell. It refuses to like fire breathe the three bully guys. And she looks down at its feet, and it has no claws. It has little paws. It's little paws. He's so tiny. I don't even know if it's a boy or a girl, but the golden one is tiny. I think it's probably like at least a quarter of the size of the other dragons. Like, it's tiny. So I'm like, oh, maybe that's her dragon. She's fighting off these guys. She like threw her daggers at them and stuff, and she's like doing pretty good. And Xaden had shown up, and he's not allowed to interfere, but he's like kind of, you can tell he's like rooting for her. And I'm like, okay, Xaden. You know, he's like keeping an eye out. He's like, watch out, watch your back, like all this stuff. His dragon's there too, the big blue female dragon, Sigale, and she looks pissed. So Violet's doing her thing, whatever. She's getting kind of beat up too, like she's getting fucking cut and stuff, but she's got really good armor on. The armor that her sister gave her that has her sister's dragon's scales like in the leathers to protect her. They're like shrunken down, like somebody shrunk them down. All of a sudden she has like one opponent left, because the main bully Jack, she threw a dagger at him and it hit him in his sword arm, shoulder, and he was crying like a little bitch and he ran off. The two other guys are still trying to fight her. She got one unconscious, and then the last guy is actually her squad mate, and apparently squads mean shit now. He's like literally trying to kill her. Why? I don't really know. Like, dude, chill out. But as he's about to kill her, all of a sudden this big shadow comes over them, and he looks terrified. He starts backing up, and she turns around, and there's a massive, like bigger than the average dragons, like dragon behind her, this huge black dragon. It has like the golden one in the span of his wing, like the golden one's like tucked under his wing. And she hears in her head, move to the side, like get out of the way. The dragon, the big black dragon, is speaking to her brain. And I'm like, this is her dragon. The dragon that is able to speak with you is going to be your dragon. She's like, seems to be about to be bonded to this huge dragon. I'm like, what about the little one? Because the little one hadn't been talking to her at all. He was just like making, you know, animal noises and stuff. So the other kid gets scared. He tries to run off. The black dragon incinerates him. This is why I'm squealing. I'm having so much fun. Literally having so much fun. The dragon is talking to her. I know who you are. Let's go. Climb up on my back. And she's like, wait a second. And she's like, you don't want me. And he's like, I'm not going to ask you again. And she's like, oh shit. Oh God. Honestly, like if it was a shifter kind of moment, like I'd be like, damn, this dragon is hot. But he's not a shifter. He's just a dragon. But he's very like domineering, bossy. And I was like kind of vibing it. I was like, okay, tell her what to do. Oh God, I'm too much of a romance girly, okay? I know it's just a dragon, it's not a shifter, but still, it was funny. So she's able to climb on his back because he kind of, the author uses the word supplicate, which I guess means like ask humbly, even though he's kind of bossy, for her to get up. He like reaches his arm out instead of like standing straight because she can't climb him like this. He's too big. She's like, I'm not strong enough. My arm is like sliced open. My ankle's twisted, like all this. So he like stretches out his arm, his leg, so she can climb up this way, which she's like, wow, that's like so unusual for a dragon to be helpful. But he is like determined to have her, which again, I love from like my romantic heart. I know it's just a dragon again, but like he really wants her. He's like, you're my rider. And he's a little like wary of her. He's like, come on. And she's so sassy with the dragon. I'm like, why are you being sassy? You just met him. He's huge. He could kill you. You know what I mean? But I love that for her. I love her personality. I'm just obsessed. She's great. She is a great main character. I love it. I'm having so much fun. What else? Oh, so she climbs on his back and he takes off. He's flying. He's going. And she's holding on for dear life. He doesn't have like a proper like saddle, but they call it like a seat and like a pommel, but it's just the shape of their bodies. And she's trying to hold on for dear life as she is struggling. And she starts sliding off, and then he turns and she's free falling. She falls off him. And then the chapter switches, and that's where I left. So this was kind of early for an update, but I'm just having so much fun, and I wanted to share it with you while I like am amped. I'm amped. I'm gonna keep reading. It's kind of late. Oh, it's not that late. It's only 10:30. I'm exhausted, though. But I'm having so much fun. So I'm going to keep reading. And I'll speak with you again soon. I can't wait to see what happens. Sam, I'm loving it. All right, talk to you in a minute. Hi, it is Thursday night, and I have been putting in pages for Fourth Wing here. I'm nearly towards the end, and a lot has happened, and I need to give you detailed updates and reactions to what's happened so far. I'm still having a great time, which is amazing. It's so fun to read this with Sam and Eliza. Also, at the same time, we've been DMing on Instagram and stuff. Taryn is like, get on my back, I've chosen you. And she's like, are you sure? And he's like, I'm not gonna repeat myself. So they fly off together. They make it official with the school that that's her dragon. And she's like having his name written down with hers. All of a sudden, because he can talk in her mind, right? And then all of a sudden she hears another voice, and it's the little golden dragon, and the little golden dragon is telling Vi her name, which is like Andarna, and she's so cute. So she tells Vi her name as if to put it on the list as well, and Vi's like, what? And she's like, Tarn, what am I supposed to do? He's like, tell the roll caller her name. She's your dragon. And she's like, I have two dragons. So she has two dragons. I was so curious. I thought she might have two dragons, but so fun. And then I also learned that Tarn and Sigale are mated dragons, and their bond is like super strong. Like it's the strongest bond in the world, like two dragons mated together, even stronger than like the bond a dragon has with its rider, right? Because a dragon is very protective of their rider, but because they're mated, it forces Vi together with Xaden in a way, because Tarn's kind of delicate. He lost a rider like 5 years ago, and it nearly killed him, like emotionally, like he was like destroyed because that bond is so strong. And if he were to die, that could potentially kill Sigale, which for whatever reason kills Xaden, because it's like a rider without their dragon is dead, right? So for whatever reason, like if the dragon dies, the rider dies. So if anything happens to Vi, something could happen to Tarn, which then would affect Sigale, which would then potentially kill Xaden. So he's like, okay, I've been saying I wanted to kill you since the beginning, but now I have to protect you and all this stuff. But honestly, he hasn't been giving like that much aggressive energy towards her. It was just like the one time where he was like, I hate you, I'm gonna kill you in the beginning. And then he hasn't really done anything like aggro for the rest of the book. But Vi's always like, oh, he wants to kill me. And Dane's always like, oh, you can't trust him, da-da-da-da, all this stuff. Her previous friend, that's kind of annoying. I don't like him. I told you I didn't trust him. He's just so annoying. He just wants to hold her back. Like, she's trying to grow as a rider in the situation that she's in, but he's just like always trying to like protect her, but really he's just like holding her back, and I'm sick and tired of him. Okay, so the next big thing is that people try to assassinate Vi in her sleep. Like a group of like 7 people try to kill her, but luckily she's always sleeping in like her dragon scale armor that her sister gave her, so she doesn't get killed immediately. But luckily her dragon had like woken her up in time, and she's like, what the fuck is going on? And like they're trying to kill her, and she's like, what the fuck? And she's like fighting against them, and the dragons communicate to Xaden to like run to her room to try to help defend her. and he comes just in time to save her life, and then he like assassinates all of the attackers except one that had run off before he had arrived. Oh, but part of the way that Vi was able to escape the attack, like in the moments leading up to Xaden showing up, was that Andurna, the golden dragon, has powers that she can pass to Vi. So Tarn has powers. He doesn't like do anything magical really on his own that's seen. Like obviously he breathes fire and he has power energy that he can pass to her as the rider, and then it manifests in her as a signet is what they call it. But yeah, so she passes her power to Vi, and Vi's able to freeze time for a couple seconds, get out of like a grip like this with like a blade on her neck. She's able to like maneuver out because everybody's frozen. And then Xaden shows up and he's like, wait, how did you get out of that hole so fast? Like what just happened? Because she froze time. But then you learn to find out that Andarna is only 2 years old. She is a baby dragon. Like Tarn, I think he's like probably 200 years old or something. He's in the hundreds. So a 2-year-old dragon is an infant baby dragon. I think they don't get to maturity, if I recall correctly, until like 4 years old. So she's not, I mean, like, they're not babies for that long in the span of their life. The thing with the baby dragons is that the magic they share can be permanently passed to the rider or something. Let me see what I wrote down in my notes. Andarna's magic could be passed fully to the rider but fades once the dragon's fully grown. If the rider drains Andarna's power, it could kill them both. And Andarna isn't the baby of like Tarn and Sigale. She's just like an orphan that they care for and they like think she's endearing and all that stuff. But she has her own agency. Like she just chooses to do what she wants, and the other dragons aren't really going to tell her what to do per se. And then, okay, so back to the attack. Then you find out the person that ran away was Amber, this other wing leader that used to hook up with Dane. And Violet tells Xaden that Amber did it, and he believes her. There's this like whole big thing where Xaden's like, I need to call somebody out, like during the day. He like calls the teachers, and there's like an assembly basically, and like this whole like showing of making this accusation. And as he accuses Amber, Dane's like, what, that can't be true. And he's like, he's lying. And Vi's like, no, he's not lying. Like I saw her. And he's like, tell everybody the truth, that it wasn't her. Like he's basically calling Vi a liar. And he's like, let me see your memories, because he's that memories power. And he like reaches for her face, and she's like, get the fuck off me, because previously she needed to like hide something, because I think she had a moment with Xaden, but she didn't want him to read her memories because there were things that she needed to hide from him. She gets Tarn to share the memory because he has some of her memories as well, so he magically like shares the memories to the entire school, like the all like of the rider quadrant, to prove that she did see Amber try to kill her. They're like, oh, that's breaking the codex rules, which is like this, like, you can't break the rules or you'll die. You can't attack people in your sleep. That's the thing. That's like a hard and fast rule. Like, yeah, you can kill each other, but like not when people are sleeping, because that's below the belt. Because that's where we draw the line. So she's sentenced to execution, and Tarn fireballs her. And Vi's sad about it because she doesn't want to be a killer. She feels guilty about calling Amber out, and it's resulting in her death. You also find out that all 4 of them, so Vi, Tarn, her dragon who speak to each other, and Xaden and Sigale, who are dragon and rider, speak to each other like in their brains. But because Tarn and Sigale are mated pairs, that means Sigale can talk to Vi and Tarn can talk to Xaden. Because normally dragons aren't allowed by their own dragon laws to talk to any humans besides their own rider. So when she first heard Sigale, she was like, what the F is going on? Like, what is happening? Like, you shouldn't be talking to me. But because they're made of pairs, there's like, whatever. And Andarna's not included in that. Like, Andarna only talks to Vi. She doesn't talk to Xaden, as far as I know. I mean, she could, I guess, if she wanted to, but it wouldn't be like of the dragon law, but I don't think she does. Then we kind of jump ahead. Vi wakes up one night and she's like, what is going on? Tarn and Sigale are hooking up somewhere out away, but because he's bonded with Vi, he's not like blocking his emotions from her because he's a little too in the throes of it. So she's like, why am I amped up? And it's making her like horny. So she flees. She flees her room. She like sees like Liam, who's one of the rebellion children, who's been watching her, like kind of being her bodyguard because Xaden told him to. But they're like friends. Like he's actually really nice. Love him. She flees because she sees Liam and she's like, oh my god, I will like pounce you. So she flees to the courtyard. And of course, who does she run into? none other than Xaden. And he's also amped and horny, but like he's like smoking something to try to like get the edge off, and like he's a little bit better at blocking out his dragon, but it's not enough. He's still pretty amped. And then they have a makeout session in the courtyard, and it was just like a fun scene, a little silly. A lot of like Xaden saying, "Oh, you're gonna regret this. Like you don't really want me," and she's like, "No, I do," because she has been pining after him a lot. Like even before all that, just being like, he's so hot, you know. But feeling like she shouldn't, but they go for it. They're making out, and then he's kind of like, we need to stop, like leave before we take this too far, because this isn't your real emotions. This is like your dragon. And she's like, no, I really want you. And he's like, I don't believe you. You're lying. So yeah, that was fun. Okay, and then like Xaden takes over her training. He gifts her some daggers, because the daggers that she's been collecting through the challenges, like when she battles other students, if she wins, she gets to like take their weapons. So she's been collecting all these mismatched daggers and stuff, but they're hard for her to handle because she's petite, like her hands are small and all this stuff, so it's just not as comfortable for her. So Xaden had custom daggers made for her. How romantic. And they have all these like interesting runes on them that she doesn't know how to read, but she's like, oh, look at that, it's like, must be like a cultural thing from where his province is, you know, whatever. But yeah, he like makes them like to scale for her, so it's easier for her to manage. I'm like, so nice. And they're sparring, so there's a lot of like him throwing her on her back and like getting on top of her, and it's supposed to be like, oh my god, like we're sparring, but like she's like, he's in between my thighs, and it's like, okay, like what kind of sparring is this? You know, it's just like a lot of school stuff. I mean, I like it, but it's not like super imperative to these updates, but like she's trying to learn how to stay in her seat on her dragon. He has like kind of like a built-in perfect notch for the average size rider, but he's also massive, so maybe he's a little bit bigger than the average person. But she's tiny, so she's having a hard time like keeping her seat. Plus she's not that strong relative to everybody else, so she keeps falling off the dragon. And some of the other dragons, when their rider falls off, they just let them fucking fall to their death and die. But Darn is nice enough to catch her, which is a lot. You know, she's falling off a lot on just one class of flight practice. You know, like 3 dozen times apparently. So she eventually gets better at it, but it's not great. There's some kind of squad battle thing, like another kind of challenge for the students that's like a check mark for their education. Her squad wins, which means they get to go to the front lines. They go to the front lines. She sees her sister. They have like this moment together. She like takes her bestie to see her family that doesn't live that far from there, even though they shouldn't have gone off the designated fort area. And then they've been there for like 2 days, right? So it's just her squad, and Xaden's like a wingmaster, so he's not there. But after 2 days, he just shows up with his dragon, because apparently Tarn and Sigale can't be separated for more than 3 days. And Sigale was like, no, I need to go see my husband. And Xaden's like, well, I can't be separated from you because of the bond, I guess. I don't really know how that works. But the rider has to stay with the dragon. So he shows up. Dane is, of course, not happy about it. And then they get under attack, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't affect anything. They just like, you know, Vi wants to stay to help her sister, but Xaden's like, no, like leave. We have to leave. We have to keep you safe. And like, none of us are going to stay. You're going to risk everybody else's life by being reckless. Like, they don't need us to stay. He's like, do it for me. Do it for me. And she's like, okay. So it's just like hints of like how he cares about her, even though he hasn't said it in so many words. Okay, and then you come to find out that Xaden can talk directly into Vi's mind in the same way that the dragons talk to them, because they're all linked together. So he now can talk directly to her, and then she eventually figures out how to talk to him. So they're like, throughout the rest of like the story, they'll be in class and they're just like flirting with each other, snipping at each other, like in their minds, nobody knows. And it's just like a cute element that I'm eating up. So I love that. And then they end up finally doing the date, right? I don't even, oh no, that was after. So what triggered this one? I think Xaden just like shows up to her room one night, and he's just kind of like fed up trying to fight his desire for her, like wanting her. They just get it on, and it's just so funny. Because, and like in a fun way, not in a like, I think it's stupid way, like in a genuine, like I'm entertained, because they are like breaking furniture. They like destroyed all the stuff off her desk, like smashed her against the armoire, and he's like fucking her, and they like break the armoire. Did she trigger her power at this point? I don't quite remember. precisely, but I feel like it was during this interaction is when she, oh no, I remember now. No, I remember. Okay, it wasn't this interaction. Forget what I said. I'll tell you in a bit. So yeah, they hook up and it's the best they've ever had, okay? And then they cuddle, and Xaden, you can just tell, he's just like hooked in, but he's like, don't fall in love with me. Of course, typical man. But I mean, I guess it makes sense because it's like, considering the deadly circumstances that war brings, you know, you can't, like, it's hard to feel like you could hurt somebody because they care about you so much, but your life is like always at risk, you know? So, but she's like, I'm gonna fall for you if I feel like falling for you. And he's like, well, you can't. And she's like, well then, let's maybe not do this because until you're willing to like admit that there's like feelings between the two of us and not just me, like I'm not gonna just be physical with you because I can't keep my emotions out of it. And he's like, fine. And she's like, So they stay away from each other for maybe like a month and a half, 2 months, but she is just like teasing him and he's barely holding it in, you know what I mean? Because they're talking to each other in their minds and stuff, and like he really wants her and she really wants him to break and just admit that they have feelings for each other. So loved that. I love Vi's personality. She's so fun. Okay, and then we move on to the anniversary of the end of the rebellion thing. I forget what they call it. Reunification day. So that was like, this is like the 6th anniversary of it, and this is like the whole thing with Xaden's father, because Xaden's father was the leader of the rebellion, and that was when all the children of the rebels' parents were executed, and like that triggered all this whole thing. So, and this is the same day that Vi's brother Brennan died. So it's like a sad day for the kids of the rebellion people and Vi, but everybody else is like celebrating, like, oh, you know, the king's in town, you know, whatever. So she's like, where's Xaden? So she goes looking for him, and he's all sad, and he's like out on that stone bridge that has no railings. That is like the first challenge. I mean, he has powers. He's got like the shadow power, so he's not scared of falling off. He can catch himself. Vi's like in her cute little formal dress for the party and stuff, so she's like, well, I want to go comfort him. So she like goes out there to walk on it, and he's like, what are you doing up here? Like, you could fall. And they have like this cute moment, and she's like, I care about you, like, get out of there, like, I want to comfort you. And she's like being all nice, and he's like breaking down his walls. And she's like, I'm gonna take you to your room and make you feel nice. And like, she's like being all kind. And then she basically tells him that she's like falling for him and that she really cares about him and all this stuff. And she's like, I love you, or whatever. I think this is how it went. Something like this. It happened along these lines. And Xaden is like, I need you now. And then of course, then they get down and dirty. Oh, wait. Was this after? Oh, no. This was before. Yes, okay. There were a couple sexy scenes. She's like, well, are we going to be like a thing? Like, are you going to admit that we're a thing? And he's like, yeah, we're like a thing, but like, we got to keep it kind of on the DL because it's not a good look for a first year to be, you know, hooking up with their superior. People are going to think you're just doing it to get ahead and all this stuff. So then the war games begin. Oh, wait, I feel like I'm fucking stuff up. I'm trying to remember when she got her powers. So there was some kind of challenge. Oh, I guess it was the squad games, maybe? There was some other kind of challenge. I'm kind of messing up the timeline a little bit, but there was a challenge where it was kind of like a capture the flag kind of thing. You're not supposed to kill each other, but like, you know, some of the kids will die anyway. And Jack is still alive and he's still being a jackass. He's on like a different team from Vi, and there's this whole thing where like she's trying to get his flag, we'll say. It's really an egg, but it doesn't matter. Her team is trying to like attack his team to get the prize on their dragons. They're like flying and stuff over like fields and like, you know, forts and structures and all this stuff. But she sees Jack attacking Liam, and I love Liam, okay? Liam is precious. He is a rebel's child, so he's like, you know, very loyal to Xaden, but he's become good friends with Vi. Jack is like trying to kill him. He like stabs him. He stabs him, and Liam has fallen off his dragon, and his dragon can't catch him in time. I don't know why. I think the dragon is like fighting Jack's dragon or something. So Vi's like trying to chase after him to catch him on her dragon, but she's running out of time. And of course, I'm like, please, Liam, don't die, not my Liam, you know. So she asks Anderna to use the freezing power. So she uses the freezing power, freezes for like 5 seconds, and is able to have her and her dragon continue to move in order to catch Liam before he hits the rocks. He's like pretty freaking close to like hitting the rocks on the mountains and burst in like a freaking bubble. So yeah, people are like, oh, how did you move so fast? And she's like, she can't tell people the power that Andarna has because they'll want to like take advantage of the baby dragons and like basically drain them or whatever. So she has to keep that a precious secret, especially because Tarn is like demanding it. That happened, but in the midst of that happening, she goes to finish off Jack because she's pissed that he keeps trying to kill her and the people she cares about. So she has all this like built up energy, right? So like she's been getting the powers from her dragon, but there's not a way for her to release it because she hasn't figured out what her signet power is yet, and that like they have to like release the overload of power that's going to accumulate in the body through using their powers, right? Typical like magic setup. So she's like, I feel like I'm going to explode. Like I have too much power. I haven't figured out what my signet is, but like whatever is happening, if I physically explode, like pop in a bomb moment, like I'm taking Jack out with me because he keeps threatening the people I care about. So she's like, ah! And all of a sudden, lightning, boosh, like comes out of the sky. And it turns out she has lightning powers, which is pretty dope. Not 100% sure on how it works. I feel like it only comes from the sky. She hasn't shown any power of like coming out of her fingertips or anything like that, which would be convenient for being inside. But so far, it just seems to be like an outside a lightning moment. So I kind of paused when I was talking about their sexy scene because she was like blasting lightning while they were hooking up. Xaden was like, oh, I thought your power might be lightning. And she's like, why? Why did you think I was going to have lightning? He's like, oh, because when we kissed that first time, like lightning had gone off, like out of the blue. And he was like, what the heck was that? And it was her. They just hadn't realized it at the time. So that's funny. Now I'm in the midst of the final countdown here. They're doing the war games thing, right? So like they had hooked up after, you know, Xaden was all sad and stuff. So kind of like jumping back forward in the timeline, they get a knock on the door and they're like, people are in danger. Like we're getting attacked or whatever. Turns out they're not getting attacked. It was just like a lie from the teachers to be like, oh, see, this is what it would feel like if we were actually under attack. And they're like, what the fuck? But they have one final challenge before graduation. It's like 10 days out till graduation. And it's the war games is what they're calling it. Don't really understand how this works, but we let it go. But basically they separate all of the students, the rider students, into groups. They don't have to stick with their squad. Like the leaders can kind of divvy people up based on their strengths and powers and stuff. So Xaden forms a group amid the chaos of organizing for like their assignments and stuff. And he makes it so it's all rebel students plus Vi. And she doesn't notice that right away until they've flown out to wherever they're supposed to be, which is like 7 hours away from the school. She's having a moment with Xaden as they're resting by like a lake or whatever. I don't think they've made it to their destination yet. They're like almost there. The dragons need a break from flying for 7 hours. You know, they're like kissing behind a rock or whatever. And then all of a sudden a female voice comes and she's like, oh, so this is what you guys do. Da, 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 da. It turns out to be the enemy, like the people that the country's been in war with, right? The Griffin Rider people, like the other country that is allegedly like attacking the main character country. These Griffin Riders are the known enemy that Vi's been taught to despise. She's like, oh my god, we need to attack them right away. And Xaden's like, no. He knows them and he's like working with them and she feels so betrayed. He's like, oh, you guys are early. What are you doing here? He's like, the shipment is on its way. And Vi's like, what the fuck is going on? What shipment? Why are you talking to the enemy? You're betraying the country. Like, and then that's when she noticed that everybody's a rebel kid. And she's like, oh my god, I've been lied to. And I'm like, okay, I know this is for the drama, but it's a romance. So I know with 100% certainty that I can trust Xaden. Okay. Xaden would never do anything truly like evil or wrong. Like, he's a good man. Side note, you also learn that like he made some kind of deal and he has like 107 scars in his back because he made a deal for the 107 rebel kids that they wouldn't be put to death. Instead, they would have the opportunity to try to live by being conscripted into the Rider Quadrant. So like it's their chance to potentially prove their loyalty and all this stuff. So he made that promise. And if any of those children betray the country, he would forfeit his own life. Don't really know what happens to the rest of the kids, but I assume they still have the chance, minus the betrayer, but he would forfeit his own life. So yeah, he's just like such a good person. He's a good boy, okay? He's got a dark past. He's been hurt, obviously, because his father was murdered. As a reader, you don't really know what the point of the war is besides being told that this other country keeps attacking the main country, even though they're trying to have peace. They're like, oh, they just always attack us for like hundreds of years. They've been attacking us, right? And then you don't really know why there was a rebellion. that isn't explained either. So for Vi to be like super mad at Xaden and the other kids, I'm calling them kids, they're grown adults. They're like in their 20s. The other students is a little like, come on, like hear them out. Like you definitely don't have all the facts. Like I know she was studying to be a scribe, so she's read the history, but clearly the history has been falsified. Things have been omitted. I'm just in that kind of moment right now. He's trying to explain stuff to her. Apparently, there's some type of evil magic people that pull magic right from the source versus how it's supposed to be, which is through a dragon or through a griffin. That's like the pure way to have magic, because if you pull the magic straight from, I don't know, the ground or the source, it corrupts you and you become evil and you're, I don't know, you're like a leech, parasite, zombie, evil thing. I'm not super sure. All I know is that they're called venin. Usually you hear them in like children's bedtime stories to make sure they behave, or they're like, oh, if you don't do your chores, then the venin are gonna come and take you in the night, like that kind of vibe. So everybody thinks that they're just myth, but apparently they're real, and they're the reason I guess these attacks have been happening. Haven't fully had the explanation. I kind of paused because I had a lot to catch you up on, so I guess we'll find out. But I kind of wish there was a little bit more on that, so this reveal had a little bit more depth to it, but we're just here for the vibes, okay? We're not gonna criticize too much because that makes it less fun. And sometimes, like, I do want to be critical, but for this one, I just want to have fun. Okay, I'm loving the dragons. I'm having a good time with Violet as a character and Xaden as a character, so I'll give it some grace with the logic bits and the world and stuff, but we'll see how it goes. I just know Xaden didn't betray her. So he's basically trying to convince her right now, like, we're working with the Griffin people because they're not really our enemy, I assume is what's gonna be explained. And it's the venin people, and the venin people are the true enemy that is attacking our country. And the only reason we don't see venin in the main country is because they have these, like, magical wards that the dragons power. Only dragon magic works within the boundary. So like if a griffin person comes in, their magic doesn't work, and if a venin person comes in, their magic doesn't work. So that's why the venin people aren't ever around. But I assume they ravage that other country where the griffin people are from, and they need help. So the shipment is like a shipment of weapons because Xaden's trying to help them. Don't know how he knows. I assume the rebellion people knew about it, and maybe they rebelled because the main country is covering it up because they don't want to help. I don't know why. I haven't got that far. We'll see. Hopefully it's explained. I think that's all I have for the update for now.
You can't see my tears, but I'm crying. I'll catch you up on the details, but not right now. All you need to know is Liam's dragon got murdered by a wyvern, and it's a death sentence for Liam. He has only minutes to live. And I was just saying, not my Liam. Not Liam. You know what? It's crazy because Eliza was texting in the chat too. Because she was like getting to the war games section like I was coming up on, or she was like a little bit ahead of me, and she was like putting like sad emojis and stuff, and I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? This.
All right, it is the same night as my like sit down update when I was in that black shirt. But I figure I talk to you now when my feelings are still kind of like raw versus tomorrow or whenever. Kind of get over it. I've got like 35 pages left. I'm just kind of reeling. I'm like pretty impressed with this book, okay? I usually don't like to be like other girls and like what's popular, but like this is a pretty good book. I cannot deny, okay? I was crying hard, okay? I wasn't like hiccuping, sobbing, but like the tears kept flowing. Let me just give you the rundown. I'm like emotionally kind of drained. I had to take like an Instagram TikTok break just to like detach from Liam's death for a second. Ugh. But let me quickly catch you up. So I had talked about Vi getting those daggers or whatever from Xaden with the symbols on them. Apparently those symbols and those weapons are embedded with like the magic from the wards that protect the country that the dragons power, because those wards are the only things that can deter the vermin and like kill them. So they take some of that power and put it in weapons so they can kill them, because like fire doesn't kill them, nothing kills them besides that magic stuff. V's pissed about X lying, but she believes he's telling the truth about the venin, but she says she doesn't love him anymore. It's like, okay, bitch, we all know you're not over it. Like, shut up. And he said he had to keep the secrets because he couldn't trust how close Dane was to her, because obviously Dane has that memory stealing power and Xaden knows about it, even though it's like top secret and nobody's supposed to know, even though Dane tells Violet on their first day. And he says to her it only works if he touches people's like temples or something like that. But I said earlier in the vlog that I didn't trust him because he kept like caressing her face and shit. I was like, that's sus as fuck, dude. Like, get your hands off her. It seems that Xaden didn't trust him either, so he couldn't tell Violet about like them smuggling the weapons to the Griffin riders because they're trying to protect their people from the true enemy, the Venin. Turns out that was correct, because their war game mission that they're on is supposed to go to this like fort thing, and it's supposed to have normal riders there. It's outside of the ward, so they're like in the other country, I guess. I don't know why they'd have a fort in a place that isn't in their country, though. I guess that's the thing. I don't know. But it's beyond the wards. There's supposed to be like normal riders there, but it's deserted. But there's a message there, and it's for Xaden, basically saying, hey, you can follow the game and actually take your group to this other location within the hour. That would take like exactly an hour to get there or something. Or you can be disloyal and disobey these orders and face this attack. And all of a sudden these Venin people are coming. They're like wizards basically, but they're evil, and they get their power from sucking the life out of the earth. Like the plants die and anybody in their path like shrivels up into like a husk like within seconds, and they power the wyvern. So instead of like how the dragons power the riders, the Venin people, these like wizard people, power these wyverns, which are, they basically look like dragons, but they only have 2 legs versus 4 legs, and they breathe blue fire. So everyone's like, well, we're here to protect innocent people, like we're not gonna flee. So everybody decides to fight, and you know, it's, the odds aren't very good. Some of the Griffin riders show up to like help in this battle and stuff, and one of the students, she gets all shriveled up, she dies, and there's a lot of action and fighting. It kind of went on for a while. I mean, I'm still kind of in the throes of these action scenes, and like I like some action scenes, but some of it I'm just like, okay, this is kind of long. Violet and her dragon are getting chased down by this wyvern, and Liam and his dragon like cut the wyvern off from them to try to protect them, and the wyvern gets its claws into Liam's dragon, and Liam gets thrown off his dragon. Luckily he like lands on Violet's dragon, and she's able to like catch him and like pull him to her. But Liam's dragon is like getting like dragged out of the sky and like ripped to shreds by this like deranged wyvern beast. The wyvern doesn't even care that it's gonna die, like it just wants to destroy this dragon, and it's succeeding. Like Liam's dragon is like dying, it's like getting shredded from its belly, like ripped open, and then they crash into the ground, and Liam's dragon doesn't get up. It dies. I think it's a male. Like how the phrase goes at the beginning of the book, like a dragon without its rider is a tragedy, a rider without their dragon is dead, and that's literal. So Liam only has minutes to live. Violet and her dragon land with him, and he's like fading. He's fading fast, okay? And I'm like, no! Because I said earlier in the vlog, protect Liam at all costs. Now he's doomed to die, and it's not even like because he's not a good fighter or anything. It's just because like he tried to save Violet, and his dragon got attacked and couldn't survive the attack. So he's just like desperate to get to his dragon, so Vi helps him like kind of get over there, but he's struggling and he's dying, and then it's like he fucking dies, and I'm crying. I mean, you just saw the clip, but like I'm crying. And you know, it's because he was such a good character, so loyal. I'm crying again. So loyal to Xaden, such a good friend to Violet, even though she begrudged him shadowing her, but like she couldn't deny that he was so kind and thoughtful and sweet and strong, and that's kind of the nature of like books and art sometimes. Like it's good to get like a good reaction out of people, but it's just sad that, you know, a good character dies. But it makes for an interesting story, I guess. But I'm just sad. I mean, it would be boring if all the main characters survived, I guess, in such a dangerous world. I really cared about that character, so I'm sad. At least the danger is real. Anyway, that kind of ties in to Dane betraying, because with him touching her face, he was... Did I tell you that? He was stealing her memories. Yeah, I did say that. So back to like the Dane thing, he was touching her face, and like I said, Xaden was keeping secrets from her because he didn't trust Dane being so close to her. He didn't really tell Violet that much about like the secret stuff he was doing to help the other country who are innocent of like the attacks that they're blamed for. But he did tell her one thing because she was like, oh, tell me something real, like when they were kind of like trying to suss each other out if they liked each other or not. And she's like, where were you that one night when you kind of snuck back into the building? He didn't tell her what he was doing, but he told her where he was. And that was enough information to clue off Dane and to alert his father. So that missive that they got, basically giving them that ultimatum of whether to like be, like follow the command or be disloyal and save the innocents, came from Dane's father. So I'm in the middle of Liam just dying, and the battle's still going. Like there's so many of these wyverns, and they're so hard to kill. I'm just drained. I'm emotionally drained. So I have reading updates on Fourth Wing. I finished this very soon after my last update to you guys. Last we spoke, they were in the middle of their battle or whatever. Liam died. I was crying. Sam was texting me today because she was finishing listening to the audiobook. Sent me a picture of her sobbing. But anyway, plot-wise, they continue fighting the wyvern and the vernon, which they're also now calling dark wielders. And Vi's like fighting this one vernon person in the air, this chick, and Vi gets stabbed in the side with like a poison dagger and she's dying, but she manages to attack with her lightning power while also leveraging Anderna's time freezing power, because Vi's aim is terrible. She can't aim for shit with the lightning power, but she like freezes time enough where she can kind of like slowly somehow drag the person in range of the lightning strike and kills them, which in turn kills the wyvern that they're controlling, which would be like, I don't know, like 10 plus, however many, half of the field of wyvern. So that happened, and then they're able to like escape. X grabs her and she's like dying, like she's like losing consciousness. Obviously she's our first person, right? But then we switch to Xaden's POV, and he takes her to his home city that got destroyed during the whole rebellion thing. I think it's called Arisha or Artia, I don't know. And I think Xaden's family was like the aristocrats of that city because they lived in like the big mansion or whatever. That big stone mansion was not destroyed in all of the destruction of the city, and that city has been rebuilding on the DL. Most of the country and like leadership thinks that place is abandoned, but that's where they're rebuilding, and that's where people who are involved in this revolution are gathering, because the revolution people know the truth about the dark wielders slash Benin and the wyvern and stuff, and that the leadership in Navarre are lying about it because they feel that they're safe within the wards, but the wards have been breaking and giving out, so they just feel like people are in danger and they're being lied to, and that people beyond the borders are being just like left for shit and they're not being helped, right? And they want to help those people, these revolutionary people. So Xaden takes her there because there's a healer there, like a magical healer, and he needs to save Vi, right? So Vi gets healed and she wakes up and she's pissed at X, saying that like she believes him and like will side with him in this, battle against evil and stuff, but that she can't trust him with her heart because he's been keeping secrets from her. But he had good reasons because she can't block out Dane, and Dane is a memory reader. So he had good reasons, but he feels really bad about having to keep secrets from her and stuff. And he's like, I'm not going to keep anything from you anymore. I'm going to earn your trust back. I know you still love me and all this stuff, right? Drama. But the biggest thing that happens at the very, very end, like the last page, is Brennan walks in, and Brennan is Vi's brother, who she thought died at the end of the rebellion. He's alive and in hiding and helping lead this revolution. So that was super fun. My jaw was on the floor. That's what my note says. My jaw is on the fucking floor. Brennan is alive, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. And that's how it ends. He's like, welcome to the revolution. My copy had a couple bonus chapters from Xaden's POV. We got to see their sparring match, their first sparring match from his POV, and then we also got to see, right after threshing from his POV, they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with Vi having 2 dragons, and then Dane like kissed Vi, and Xaden sees that from across the field, and he's enraged because he's been trying to fight these feelings for her. And it's cute to see him like being attracted to her, like thinking she's coming into her own and like growing, and kind of being like, wow, she's like kind of figuring this out, you know, like she's pretty impressive, and falling for her against his will, and then trying to deny it. But then when he sees Dane kiss her and like the extreme jealousy he feels, it's just cute. It's funny. So finished that, and then I just decided, because again, my expectations were low. I didn't think I was gonna like this book. I haven't been really vibing with fantasy romance this past year, so I didn't think like it was gonna be the perfect fit for me, but I genuinely had so much freaking fun. People complain about some of the logic of, you know, with the kids dying or the students dying and all that stuff. Like, why does that make sense when you're at war? Like, yes, that's true. That's valid. But, I don't know. Like, I felt that enough of it, like, I'd say like 90% plus of the plot made sense by the end. And it was just so freaking fun. And I love the dragons. It's like my first dragon book. And Vi as a character, she is just so fun, and like she stands up for herself, and like a lot of the times when I read books, I catch myself like speaking out loud my own opinions of stuff and like how I want the character to react, where I'm like like if a character says something to the main character and I'm like, oh, that's bullshit, Vi would literally like a couple sentences down like call that person out. Like she would do what I would want her to do. She would do what I would do. And I love that. It's just so satisfying. And that would happen multiple times. I think for what this book is, it delivered so successfully that I decided to give it 5 stars. Okay? I'm shocked. I am truly shocked that I gave this 5 stars, but I'm so happy that I loved it, like genuinely. And then I'm like looking at the reviews on Goodreads, and I see other people like rating it like 2 stars or whatever, they didn't like it, and I'm like, I like genuinely feel bad for them. I feel bad that they didn't have fun with this. I feel bad that they didn't like this, because what a missed opportunity. This book was so fun, and you didn't like it? Like, I feel bad. Very successful read. So happy. Hi, it's Editing Daphne jumping back in to end this 4th Wing spoiler vlog officially. Originally, I just rolled right into Iron Flame, but I'm splitting the vlogs into 2. If you want to check out the other one, I can link it for you. Go over there and get all the spoilers for that vlog and all the recap and everything you need to know. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it, and obviously it helps out my channel. And I will catch you in another video. Bye!